another ugly loss.
You are Locked On Huskies, your daily podcast on the Washington Huskies, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Into another edition of the Locked On Huskies podcast. I'm Roman Tomashoff. That's Lars Hanson. He's site editor with Athlon Sports' Inside the Huskies. I'm the site editor with Huskies Wire. Thank you for making this your first watch or first listen of the days. We are part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. And today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Place your first $5 bet and you'll get started with $200 in bonus bets guaranteed. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. Lars, I think you and I are both glad that we didn't make the trip out to Rutgers for this year game, where Washington, they lose 21-18 in a game that was very easily winnable. We're going to talk about the red zone execution. We're going to talk about not all, there were only 6 penalties, but they all seem to really impact the game. And we're going to get to all that, but we got to start with just a little vent, I think is the best way to put it. What was the worst part of that loss? I feel like that's the best way to talk about it because there's so many little things that we can talk about.
Coaching malpractice.
Yeah.
Like honestly, that's what it is. And again, I say that, and I'm going to kind of preface this by saying Jedd did better in certain areas that he struggled with the on the quarterback switch. That was flawless today. I don't have a single negative to say that. Like, that wasn't the reason they lost the game or anything. And that had no part in it. Actually, that, if anything, helped some of those drives. Sure. But to me, Jedd needs to be Brennan. Somebody asked me this on Twitter. Somebody asked me, what's Brennan's role as offensive coordinator if Jedd is the play caller? Brennan should be in charge of the timeouts. Because every single time Jedd calls a timeout, coming out of the play, it has not worked. Like, can you think of one that has worked?
No, but I think it's worked because I know, like, you're talking about the one early in the fourth quarter that led directly to the Samuel Brown touchdown run, where obviously he's not calling that play. But the fact that you're using a timeout there so obviously you and I aren't there. We get a little bit of a different angle than we do when we are there. And the one thing that I saw was Alfonso Tupatalo was kind of like waving his arms around. It almost looked like they couldn't hear the play call or the play call didn't come in, which if that was the case, that's really bad. I'm not going to speculate because we don't know what it was, but it looked like from my viewpoint, at least, that's why the timeout was used. And that almost makes it worse because you think about it, like, because for me, I'll get to what I think my worst is in a sec, because the coaching in general was just not good. But when I saw that, it was, why isn't the play call just being told when you had a stoppage for somebody being hurt? Like, you had a minute to get a play call together and figure it out. And you just let Samuel Brown go right up the gut and, he breaks 2 tackles and he's gone. Where that's really bad. But that in and of itself could have been nullified if you just didn't, like, even if he's like, they call the same play and they score a touchdown, that all can be nullified because then you have 40 extra seconds on the back end and that extra time. Like, you don't have the timeout, but you have 40 extra seconds on the back end from that final drive. And that's just, come on, man. Like, seriously.
Well, and that the reason why I said that is you could have had that extra timeout to use on the final drive, or not the final drive, but save those extra seconds on the back end, as you alluded to. And here's what's funny. We both talked up Jedd, and again, kind of rightly so, because what we saw at Arizona was good offense, this and that. And of course, Arizona fans bagged on him, as you would expect a fan base that lost their coach to do. Like, again, all of that was expected. We've seen, Tulane fans bag on Troy Daniel when he left, and then Washington fans bagged on Troy when he left. So again, it's all the same sort of fandom and all that. But to me, I was told by multiple people that have been around the sport, but actually, I'll say this, by multiple head coaches in the Big Ten and by multiple people who have been around football for over a decade, that Jedd is the smartest guy in the room.
Sure.
I have not seen that one freaking time this season. Like, once. I have not seen that one single time. And if anything, every single decision that Jedd thinks he's making is correct. And I'm not talking about just the fourth down in the apple gum. It's everything he thinks he's doing. He's overthinking it. And I, as an overthinker or somebody who, thinks too much or whatever, I understand that to a degree. But this is rinse and repeat 3, 4, 5 games now where we've seen the exact same thing, a little bit different, but the exact same principle being played.
No, you're right. It's the galaxy brain thing. It's why am I only giving Jonah Coleman 1 carry inside the 5-yard line? It's like, I'm going to try to outsmart him. I'm going to try to go about it this way. Yeah, but that's like it's like, I gotta outsmart instead of just doing the simple thing. Something that's been working. I gotta outsmart him by doing this.
But here's the thing, and the reason why I didn't want to interrupt you, because I wanted to get the actual number. You said 5 yards, right? When you're 1st and 5, or inside the 5?
5-yard line, yeah.
Jonah averaged 9.3 on the night.
Yeah, and Rutgers defense did a good job on the 1 carry he did get down there inside the 10. Like, they did a good job. But you don't go away battering ram. Right. Yeah, you don't go away because it's not just in this game. It's not just in this game. It was in the Apple Cup in so many different points of the season. Like Jonah has 4 touchdowns, where they're it's 4 touchdowns, where you have so many opportunities to utilize this guy close to the goal line, and it just feels like they're not happening. And look, I haven't even gotten to my just what really just ground my gears the most at anything in this. All of these things happened. All of the things we're going to get to, the penalties, the red zone execution, the missed field goals, all of those things happened. And it still came down to a 55-yard field goal at the very end of the game. That honestly made it worse, in my opinion, where there are so many things that have gone wrong over the course of this game. So many things that need to be corrected, that we've talked about needing to be corrected. We saw a bad snap. That one was, we talked about it being on the centers in previous weeks. This one was not. We've seen all those things and all those things that, these are being corrected. Like the one thing, and it was really only because it didn't happen. The one thing we actually saw improved tonight was the kick return coverage. That was the one thing. And it's because it didn't happen. I think they returned 1 kick. Where all of these things happened. Like you look at the drive with Denzel Boston's 2nd touchdown, that drive towards the end of the 4th quarter. You looked at some of that drive and it was, what's going on? Why are you running the ball? Why are you doing that? And then you get down to the end of the drive and it's, that's a nice play call. Oh, that worked. You got them to bite. You did a good job. You get the 2-point conversion. You did a good job. You made it work. And then all of a sudden it's just like, where was this for the rest of the game?
The malpractice comes into play that they didn't get a snap off before 2 minutes. That's another one.
Yeah, that was.
And I saw Will adjusting the play, but again, that's on the coaches getting that play in, getting the right play in, or what. And by the way, for anybody that wants to say, hey, right, exactly. And by the way, this is why I tweeted out during the game. Jedd said on Monday when Softy asked him if he evaluates his play calling, he's like, I've been doing this for 12, 20 years, whatever. I don't need to evaluate my play calling. Somebody's got to humble Jedd in that building. I don't know who it is. I truly don't know who can humble Jedd in that building. And I understand Jedd's ego is pretty big. You can kind of naturally see that by the way he talks and carries himself. But yeah, more power to you. You've been in the NFL, all that. This is only your 2nd head coaching stint, truly. And you only have 1 winning season. So somebody's really got to. Now, Jedd did say it's on the media to evaluate him and hold him accountable and judge his play calling. So I guess see you Monday, Jedd.
Well, with that being said, another thing that needs to be asked about are those penalties. Right after a message from our friends over at Robinhood. With Robinhood Gold, you don't need a silver spoon to eat up the financial favors of the 1%. Robinhood Gold allows others to get the rates and perks usually reserved for the high society. Now, the resourceful individual with Robinhood Gold can earn the very liberal rate of 4.5% APY on uninvested cash, receive unlimited 1% deposit bonuses, and be rewarded with a handsome 3% retirement boost on an IRA account. Robinhood Gold provides the privileges of high net worth for any net worth. These generous benefits are now available for only $5 a month. The new gold standard is here with Robinhood Gold. Sign up at Robinhood.com/gold. Terms apply. For product-specific disclosures, visit Robinhood.com/gold. Investing involves risk. Rate may change. Gold membership is offered by Robinhood Gold, LLC. Lars, 6 penalties, 69 yards. I didn't love the call on Javon Parker. Felt like that one was like, he got the face mask a little bit, but it almost just looked like it was the way the head was moving. The targeting calls at the beginning of the game were weird, and obviously they didn't stand. But both, like the second one on Cam Broussard, I kind of understand. I've never seen targeting called on an offensive lineman before, but that Vincent Holmes penalty is you can like the worst thing about this, going back to what I said in the first segment, like is all these things happen, you still could have like Washington still had every opportunity to win the game. That one is what really cost them the game. Like that penalty right there cost them the game.
Yep. Yeah. So let me kind of unpack something there. As crazy as offensive targeting is, you rarely see it. However, I'm not gonna lie, D'Angelo should have been. I could have seen a case for that one being made, because here's the thing. Sure. It wasn't the first block was fantastic. It was beautiful. It was actually worked great.
It was the second one. Yeah.
Second one when he literally leaned his helmet down into and it looked like helmet to helmet contact. That's just why I thought they were going to call targeting. But you get away with that one. The Broussard one, there was nothing in it. Like there was legitimately so I could have seen it on TTLE, but not on Broussard. But then you go back and look through it. And I put out on Twitter, and I think you kind of sensed it, where they were calling a tight game, but the more you got through that game, it was like, but it wasn't tight against Rutgers. And I'm not saying favoritism or anything like that, but I mean, the Denzel one where the arm comes over the shoulder just before the ball gets there, you can say it's a bang bang play. I know you're going to say it's a bang bang play, but in a game that had been tightly called, tightly called, that was what I was surprised by. As I'm like, wait, you've been calling all these ridiculous penalties that are tight all night, and now we're not doing that one?
Hey man, I was couch refereeing too. Okay, I saw that one and I said, "Whoa, where's the flag there?" No, I'm with you on that one. But look, the Vincent Holmes one, like we need to start there.
Yeah.
Like because you're right. Like I want to get into the Cam Davis, the illegal low block that led to a missed field goal as well. But I look at that Vincent Holmes penalty, which obviously directly leads to the Ian Strong touchdown reception, and at first, like we couldn't see it, and then you see the replay. Not only are you celebrating too early, like which was more egregious than dropping the ball at the 1 yard line, but you run right in front of the referee. How does that happen?
Well, the best part was he also ran. You could see on the video, on the clip they showed, Bala is holding guys back. And Vincent Holmes is in front of Bala. And it's like, what is happening here? And I mean, it's one of those where some people say it's a ticky-tack, whatever. It's like, no, absolutely. Ticky-tack, whatever you want to call it, because it's after the play. It's not what they announced, what it sounded like was like a legal substitution or something like that, where it sounded like, oh, hey, no, but they made it sound like he was running onto the field before the kick, because the clip that I retweeted was the pan out of them showing the kick going in. Right. And it was like, wait, there's nobody coming in or off. You have 11 guys on the field. What are you talking about? And then you cut to the, okay. So now I see it. Okay. That checks out. To me, again, Vincent Holmes is the guy that Jedd Fisch talked about in his press conference. Like, hey, random. It was random. It was like, you know what? Vincent Holmes has been doing some nice things. You remember that? Like a week or two ago?
Yeah. And this is the same thing where, like, he had to play a little bit more tonight. Like Justin Harrington wasn't active. Doesn't look like he made the trip. But I've seen bad penalties. You and I have both seen some really egregious bad penalties. I have never in my life seen anything that, like, just horribly obvious being one thing, but horribly undisciplined is just something I need to also stick in there with that. But then also directly on the very next play, gives them a 14-3 lead before the half. Like on what should have been a game-changing play. A fantastic play by Lance Holtzclaw. Shout out to Lance Holtzclaw for making that fantastic play. That should have changed the game. That should have given Washington an opportunity to at least go try and kick a field goal and maybe go into the half down 7-6. Maybe. But all of a sudden that flips the game on his head.
No, it absolutely did. And the craziest part is the fact that, as you mentioned, it was in the first half. It wasn't like, hey, last second field goal, jumps on, emotions are running high, because those are the times the game's like, hey, make sure everybody stays back. Let's not get a penalty. Let's not, let's make sure we're smart about this. Think about the kick six, at Auburn, right? Where, about like those are the times like, okay, I can understand emotions being high, but I could also understand if it's like, no offense to Vincent, somebody who's actually contributing. Like, a guy, when it was Vincent, I was just like, of all the people, really? Vince? Like, no, it's not a shot at Vince. I want to be clear, but it's almost like know your role. But the reason why this all matters is it goes back to coaching. I just don't know if there's that. Let me ask you something. Do you think there's a true connection between this entire team and Jedd?
I want to say yes, just from what we've heard talking to recruits. But here's what I'll say. Whatever the message is when it comes to some of these clear, like, discipline penalties, just straight up discipline penalties, is not there. That's what I'll say. Because, like, especially from, what you and I have heard about the last staff in terms of some of those same things, that's what I want to kind of emphasize there. But whatever the message is, when, he talks about these things like, yeah, we need to get those penalties right. Like, we need to make sure that these things don't happen. Well, there they are in a key situation that lost you the game. It's right there.
Yeah, and the reason why I asked that is, and again, I'm not trying to create any riff but think when you start to unpack this, you have 46 new players and a new coaching staff coming in. I don't know if this team is truly in sync. And the reason why I say that is because of the penalties that are so bizarre and egregious and like, why, how, like, again, let's say you have like 3 or 4 holding penalties and you're getting destroyed along the offensive line. Okay, I understand that. You're just getting abused and you're grabbing and doing what you got to do. These penalties are just unnecessary. The Cam Davis one, like, separate issue, I guess, maybe, but it's one step forward, 2 steps back. As you mentioned, get the kicking game fixed. Penalties come down a little bit, but they're still untimely penalties. And when you have the margin for error so thin in a game like tonight, where we knew, again, spread was 2.5. I said 24-20. Damn, I got close. But, again, it's one of those things where you're right there, but I just don't know if Jedd's the type of coach who can actually get a team disciplined and really take that next step. I haven't seen it. I haven't seen it in Washington. I'll tell you that much.
Sure. No, I certainly agree with you there. I think one thing that makes this more frustrating is if we wind back the clock one season, Washington won every 1-score game, played in way too many of them that took years off of so many people's lives, including my own, probably yours as well. Yeah. But they were winning all those games. And some of it came down to the coaching. Some of that came down to clock management. Some of it came down to all those things. But all of those things are just not prevalent right now. And those are things that honestly shouldn't be the most difficult things to overcome. I think that's what's the most frustrating is you look at all of the little things. It's, hey, just make sure you stay on the sidelines until you hear a whistle. Hey, just, make sure you keep your hands down. Like things that shouldn't necessarily be that difficult. And I think that's what's more frustrating about it than anything else.
How many one possession or 1-score losses did Jedd have in his first season at Arizona? Because that's something Yogi Roth told me. I think he said 7, 5, 6, or 7.
I was going to say, I thought it was 7. Yeah.
I know it was between 5 and 7. So again, you take that glass half full. Hey, we're making pretty good progress. We're there. Glass half empty. Why can't you finish? What's missing? And again, Jedd's going to get up at the podium on Monday and say, look, this is year 1. We're here. I'm like, bro, if Florida calls, half this fan base is going to say, please pick up the call. Like, it's at that point.
They already are on Twitter, man.
No, that's what I'm saying. No, that's why I said that. I'm like, the personality of Jedd, and this is what's different than Kalen. And I'm not trying to make the comparison here, but Jedd's personality almost makes everything worse. And I don't mean I'm not taking a shot at him, but I think Jedd knows that. I mean, the way he carries himself, the way he talks to us sometimes, the way he answered Softy's question was, I don't do that. I'm almost too good for that. That's what you guys do so well. It's like, okay, dude, you're really not helping your cause here. And it kind of speaks to his coaching. You're not helping your cause when you need to most, which leads into perfectly the third segment where what are you doing? Why do you, when you have a bowling ball in your backfield who had 140 plus, twice as many yards as he had last week. But the problem, he did not have any rushing touchdowns, and that is a coaching malpractice crime that probably should be charged on Monday.
Look, because and like that's a really frustrating thing. We'll get there, but one more thing that I want to say is, I just like it's gotten to the point where every time you see a flag on the field, it feels like it's on Washington. No matter if you saw it or not, no matter what is going on in the play, And that's, I know for fans, it's a terrible feeling. For us doing our job, it's just excruciating. Where it's like, seriously, like the more you watch it and the more you look at all the little things, it's I don't even have the word, like the proper, PG words really to get into it, because it's just maddening to see. Because every time you watch it now, it's just, oh, when's the penalty going to come in? Where's the drive killing penalty? Like on the Cam Davis play, where like Giles picks up the first down. So, okay, really nice job. All right, let's see what the red zone play calling looks like today. Like that's what I was saying to myself. And then it's, oh, there's a flag. Oh, is it? I for my first instinct was, oh, is it a hold? Like maybe it's a block in the back. Oh, maybe it'll still be first down, whatever. Then, oh no, like it's a what? It's 3rd and 17 now. It's one of those ones where just every time you see it, it's just excruciating. And you could almost say the same thing about the red zone execution tonight, which will get you right after a message from our good friends over at FanDuel. Hey, NFL fans, you can start the season with a big return on FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. So when you get a hunch in the middle of a game, you can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you place your bet. So get started with $200 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place your first $5 bet. That's FanDuel.com. Got a couple fun props for you that I'm just going to go back to the well on. Honestly, I would parlay these two together and just see what kind of odds you can get on FanDuel, where Josh Allen for MVP, just the way the guy's been playing, he's been on a different level compared to all the other quarterbacks. And, even when you look at Patrick Mahomes and the other elite guys, their numbers are not even close to what Josh Allen's doing right now. And you could say the exact same thing about Jaden Daniels up in Washington. The way he looked on Monday Night Football was just so special. And if he can really just hone in and continue to throw the ball as well as he has, combined with that elite rushing attack that he can provide, I think those guys should both take home those trophies at the end of the year. And you should check out their odds on FanDuel. Lars, nobody is going to believe me when I say this, but that first drive, the second half, when Washington, after that Jonah Coleman run, gets the ball down inside the 10-yard line, I'm not joking when I was like, I can't wait to see how they don't score here. Where that's the level that it's at with some of this red zone execution. You and I have talked about it. We've talked about saying this needs to be better. And like even the play call on 4th down, like are you going to bite on play action on 4th and 2? No. But and like I think that the play action certainly wasn't the right call, but Giles was open and Will missed him. Part of that probably is because his back was to the defense, but Giles was open. And it's not a good play call. But I didn't love anything about that series in particular, especially when you can get some momentum coming out of the locker room after getting a stop. And I know this will, evolve into a larger conversation, but I just needed to start there.
Yeah, you're talking about the 3rd and 3, the far out, Giles?
No, I'm talking about 4th and 2 on the goal line.
Oh yeah. I mean, but you know what's funny? They've ran that play before already this season.
They have, yeah.
They ran that play against Northwestern, and what happened? It didn't work.
They scored.
No,
I was thinking of the crosser to Denzel. Yeah.
Right. No, the one that it didn't work.
Yeah.
Again. And it's not, that's not on Giles, that's not on Will. But it's the reason why I was asking for clarification on which out route it was to Giles, because again, when you had that, I think it was like the 3rd and 3 that ended up going incomplete. Some people said Will was late on. Just stop going to that route. You run the route, but almost have it as a decoy route, because the quarterback, the timing, the play, it ain't working. And that's not, it's a collection of things. And that's, if like Will has a good deep ball arm, but he doesn't have the Penix velocity. Penix can make that throw. Will is the guy where you do the alley-oop jump ball, we're going to find the good high point spot, which he did to Denzel, and then, finds Klecki for the 2-pointer. But yeah, I mean, what's funny, actually, and let's dive into the red zone here a little bit. Imagine this on that second drive when they go and Grady gets the one field goal that he did make. If you take away that 3 points and instead punch it in, you got overtime, even with Grady's misses. So to me, it was so weird because the first drive, wasn't in the red zone, but you go for it on 4th down, don't get it. You get there. I'm like, okay, why not try and go for it on 4th? Because here's the thing. At that point, when your team has struggled so much to get touchdowns, I don't know, it was early in the game, but this season, it's not like UW has been lighting it up on the scoreboard. Just keep it real here. Why not? Why not go for it? Because here's the thing. If you don't get it, you're pinning Rutgers down inside the 5. And if you do get it, you get 7.
So I think this is the most frustrating part about this. Lars, Washington outgained Rutgers by over 200 yards today. They had over 500 yards of offense. Yet they get inside the 20s and it stops. It doesn't work. Like what is the disconnect? What is the problem there? Because there were a couple of bad plays by the offensive line. I didn't think Drew Party had his best game tonight. But you look at the offensive line for the majority of the night, and I didn't think they looked overwhelmed. I didn't think they looked terrible. Did they look great? I don't think so. But it didn't seem like it was bad. And it didn't seem like it was, the biggest question mark coming into the year was the offensive line. It just felt like the execution as a whole was just not there.
Dude, 300, 200 hit, and they didn't win.
That's insane.
No, because when you said that about the offensive line, the Rutgers had 1 sack, and shout out to Will for being a magician and ducking a couple of those. And by the way, I actually I have a gift that I'm going to save for a couple of weeks, and Will wins his next one because I wanted to save it. But I think Will proved that he's not a Peyton Manning, not a mobile quarterback. Again, is he Damon? No, not saying he's Damon. But Will can certainly ad-lib and make some things happen and gain some positive yardage. But to me, Will throws for 306. Damon had 8. But still, Will throw at first 300-yard game, I believe, right? No, second. Nope. Second. Yeah. But first in the Big Ten. And Jonah has 148, and you get a collection of others to get to 207. So you get 300, 200, which is Jedd's magic number. But the reason why it doesn't matter, and to answer your question about why is it not happening in the red zone, in football, in the NFL, and in college, where's the hardest to score and where's the hardest to coach? Inside the 20s. Where does coaching actually,
because everything compresses, for sure.
Where does coaching actually matter? Inside the 20s. So Jedd's great to get you there to get you to the 20s, but then almost needs to hand it off to that'd be hilarious. Or Brennan or somebody, Scotty, somebody else. Somebody needs to take over the play calling inside the red zone.
I certainly hear where you're coming from there. I don't necessarily disagree, but I just want to look at this from a different perspective where sometimes the play calling is not good. I'm not saying it is, but when I look at it, it feels like it's just so much more than that at times, where it's just an execution issue of the number one thing that was, talked about with this team was this is a completely new team that's still learning how to play together. And I feel like that might be a little more prevalent. I don't think it's an excuse because they had every opportunity possible to win this game. And again, I don't think it's an excuse, but I feel like that might be something that has been a little overlooked.
I'm with you, but here's the thing. Again, I sure when you said execution, I'm like, God, Jedd's gonna love you on Mondays because coaches love it when you can say, "Oh, the play call was right, the execution wasn't there." Where have we heard that before?
I didn't say the play call was right.
No. But I'm saying the execution side of it, where it's like again, then that's where Jedd's going to lean into. It's we didn't execute when it mattered. It's like, so why do your players not execute for you when it matters?
Right.
That's my question on Monday. Is why? Where does the execution disappear, and why? Because it seems to be rinse and repeat in the same exact situations. Now, again, as we said, he's gotten better in some situations, and I was kind of surprised that he didn't bring Damon out there on the last drive just to get some scramble yards and see if you can make something happen. I'm actually glad he didn't, to be clear. I'm glad he didn't.
Sure.
But I was almost like, at this point, I would not be surprised with the Jedd experience that he did that. But it gets back to, you have Jonah. You have Cam. Look at Cam had success tonight, like Cam Davis.
Yeah.
There was enough, and Jeremiah Hunter came out of witness protection. So there was so many things there. But yet it's almost like Jedd it's a combination of overthink, and then because of the overthink, you don't execute.
Yeah.
And if Jedd thinks he's right by the play calling, you got to dumb down it so the execution can actually come in.
Right. But that's the frustrating thing about this, where, a shout out, I'm going to toot my own horn here for half a second. Shout out to our show that we put out earlier today, where one of my bold predictions we were going to see Damon in the red zone. And we saw that. We did, and it, picked up a nice gain there. But I'm just baffled by the way some of this works with this team, where it's because I think this is what makes it more frustrating is we talk about that last drive. Not the very last one, the last scoring drive of the day, where, all of a sudden, like, things are in rhythm. Things look like they're supposed to. Denzel made a fantastic catch going up the sideline there before the touchdown. Made a really nice play on the touchdown as well, where it almost feels like a team that's trying to play with a hand tied behind their back. And I know that's an expression I've used before, but that's really almost like what it feels like at times, where Jedd's like, oh yeah, I know I have this, but let's try this out. Let's see if this works. And then, when we really need to get down to it, we can maybe try this. And it's just, I don't get it.
I actually like that point a lot, but I think you hit the nail on the head almost too perfectly. Do you think Jedd's hands are tied? Or do you think Jedd's brain is kind of tying itself in a knot? I think the latter might be the issue, where it's like, it's not a loft issue. I don't know if you know what that means, but it's not a talent issue. It's not a lack of talent. You can figure out what the other word means in there if you want. I'm not going to say it, but you do your math on that one. It's not like you don't have, it would be different if you didn't have Jonah, but let's say you had Cam and Adam, or you had Adam and Sam Adams and Daniel God. I can understand that, where it's okay, it's not the same level, but you got a fifth year in Will. You got a heck of a bowling ball in Jonah. Sure. You got an offensive line. Max McCree did great tonight, I thought. I mean, again, not perfect, but again, I didn't see any rotation at the left tackle spot. But I didn't see any rotation. So again, it's one of those where the offensive line's getting better. You clearly did enough to do the yardage. So who's tying whose hands behind whose back? Right. Jedd's the play caller. Jedd runs the show. Jedd can't say, oh, well, my hands are a little tied there. Buddy, who's putting you in cuffs? Brennan? Jimmy? No, it's you. You made that very, very, very clear. This is Jedd's operation from the top down.
Lars, as always, thank you so much for being here. Thank you to all the viewers tuning in. We really do appreciate your support. We know watching that game was just very frustrating, so we appreciate you sticking with us here. And if you like what we got to offer, make sure you subscribe wherever you get your podcasts, whether that's YouTube, Spotify, Apple Music, Amazon Music. We're there. We're everywhere. We're updating this channel with new content every single day. So make sure you click that like button, click that little bell so you never miss when we post a new video. Have any questions, comments, concerns, drop them right down below in the comment section. And if you're audio only, please leave us 5-star reviews. It does help us out a lot. Thank you so much for tuning in, and we'll talk to you on Monday.